Let's take a look at how we create a project expense report. During this demonstration, we'll take a look at the category setup, because when you set up a category, you can enable it for project use and expense use. So we'll just take a look at the toggle that you need to toggle. Then we'll go in and we'll create a project expense report. Then once we get that done, we'll process the expense report. So submit it through workflow and do all the processing steps. And once it's been processed, then we'll take a look at the expense on the specific project that we code it to. All right, so we're going to go ahead and create a project expense report. So what I've done so far is created the project 221, which I just called project expense report. And the first thing that you need to know when you're going to book an expense using an expense report, you have to have categories that are both usable in the project module and the expense module. And we'll just take a quick look at that real quick. So in the project management accounting module, under categories, I guess under setup and then categories, we'll take a look at our shared categories. And if you remember, these are all the different categories that are shared between all the legal entities, etc. And you can release them to different modules. So you can see can be used in project is yes. Can be used in expense, which means the expense management module is flagged no. Can be used in production, means it says no. So that's the production module. Anyways, we have some such as, let's just look at travel. I think that one is. So we'll hit travel. You can see that this is a project category because it's flagged as yes, and then it's used in the expense module, and it's of miscellaneous type in the expense module. So basically, when you're creating a shared category, you have to enable it for use in the project and the expense module. So if you have that combination and a lot of other expense management setup, which has its own course that you can watch, but if you want to enter an expense report, you basically go to the expense management module, and then under My Expenses, you can go to Expense Reports. And then from here, you can see all your old expense reports and what status they're in. But you can come in and hit New Expense Report, and you can type in a purpose or a location. They're just predefined values. They're optional. So you can hit OK just to move past that. And then this is going to be, if you do the credit card import or anything like that, it's going to be unreconciled expenses that you can pull onto your expense report. We'll skip that part and just hit continue. Now we're at the actual expense report, and we have a line added already. So this is a little different look and feel than you're used to if you're used to the old product. But you can see that we have a grid over on the left, which are all the lines in your expense report, and then the right is the details of a specific line. So I'll just pick the expense category drop down, and you can see these are all the different expenses that are available to this module, and most of these double up as project expenses. There's only one in here that doesn't, which is the expense only one, which I added ahead of time just so you can see the difference. But when let's pick I don't know, taxi. So you're going to put in a taxi ride as an expense. So you can come in and put the transaction date, and we'll just put today's date. You can add a merchant if you want. Say how you paid, company credit card. We'll say it was a $55 taxi ride to airport. Now this is the key. If it has this category has project flagged as available in the project module, that means that you'll see the project ID here. So basically, it's just like any other expense that you put towards the project model. You have to define the appropriate project. So I have my 221 project on here, and then you can define an activity number if you want to, and if you want to add an internal note for the review process, you definitely can. Now if you want to add another expense, you sure can, same way, and I'll just show you that you can mix it, so you can have non-project expenses mixed with project expenses. Same process, but this time you notice we don't have anywhere to put the project in there. So I'll go ahead and add another line, just one final one, and we'll say we did a flight, $1,000 flight. I pick my project number. Yeah, okay. So there's my three expenses. Combined total of $1,555. So once you're done with all your expense lines, then basically this is pretty similar to the timesheet process where you go ahead and submit it to workflow. And now you're at the mercy of the workflow engine to process. So I can see there's my $1,500 and $1,555 transaction there that I've submitted. It's in review. I'm waiting for workflow to process, and I can come up here and take a look at the history if I want to see what's going on. I can see that it's activated, and I can just keep refreshing until it's either approved or submitted to somebody. I believe this actually assigns back to myself, and I can approve it myself. But while we're waiting on that, yeah, so basically what happens here is it has to get approved, and then there isn't an automatic posting routine that I know of. Basically what happens is it goes into a queue, and somebody from the finance team or whoever the applicable person is will go in and actually have to post this after the fact. So let's hit this. There we go. So you can see, you can dive into the details, but I'm going to do it right from the header here. I have this expense report flagged. I looked at it. It looks good. I'm just going to approve it. So we'll go ahead and put it in approved status. So once that's done, you can basically go to the expense module, and under process expense reports, you can see that there's a menu for approved expense reports. And here I'm waiting on the workflow engine to process that approval that I just did, and I don't know if I hit the submit button over on the right. Let's go look at that. I'll just go to all expense reports, and here's mine up here. If I hit workflow, let's view the history, see what's going on. Shows that the work item is approved, and I'm waiting for the completion step to get done. It shows it's completed, but over here it doesn't. Anyways, let's go back and look at our approved expense reports. There it is. It finally showed up as approved. So basically when it's approved, you can come in and you can then hit the post button. And once you hit the post button, that's what's going to actually post that expense to our project. So now if we go back and take a look at our project, all right, and now let's hit the posted transactions form, or we could look at one of the statements, doesn't matter. But you're going to see those dollars consumed. So there's the flight, there's the taxi, and then you notice that third line that I had on there for whatever, I don't remember what category I picked, but it was a $500 transaction, I believe. That is not on here because we didn't code that to a project. You only get the transaction lines that are coded to the project, and they show up as dollars consumed to the project that you associated with them. So yeah, with that being said, that's the process to submit an expense report and code it to a project.